So super excited to welcome Brandon T. Adams to our little podcast and conversation today. We're going to get into it. We are going to chat about some cool entrepreneurial journeys, what he's been up to, how we met. So I'm just super excited to have you, brother. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm excited to be on the show. I love the setup here, and it's funny how we met. I think that's a good start, right?
Let's do it. Let's dive right in, baby. Let's go. So we met through Instagram, right? You hear a lot of stuff about what Instagram does in a negative way, right? In a negative limelight. And this is one of those stories where, I just DM'd him. I saw what he was doing. I loved what he was doing. I told him a little bit about myself. We went, met up, had a drink, and had a great conversation. Here we are.
Here in studio.
Now we're shooting. We're talking about, some future things and making some stuff happen. So it's just crazy how it works.
You think about that, just the power of social media, how you can connect with people. And I've been doing this for years now. Like somebody like yourself, you direct messaged me. I can't remember what you said, but I just saw your profile. I liked what you're doing. I loved your energy. So let's go meet for a drink. We went to the 1230 Club.
Yep.
Connected. And, sometimes those like hour, 2-hour coffee meetings or meetups become just powerful relationships. Totally. And it started with social media. You connect, you follow up, and then you find ways to collaborate. And in this case, we're doing a podcast show.
Here we are. And I think too, I'm a big believer in putting yourself out there, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people stay reserved. They don't want to be behind the camera. But I mean, the reality of it was what you had put out there attracted me to you.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you probably took a look at my stuff and were like, okay, yeah, well, then let's meet.
That's the power of how you communicate your message and your brand. You look at social media, you look at speaking, you look at podcasting, look at anything. When you consistently communicate who you are as a person, what you believe in, your core values, what you do for the world, how you add value to the world, but not only communicate it, but show people through your stories. As you follow me, I'll show when I'm going for a run, I'm on stage, I'm filming, wherever I'm at, I'll get a story here in a little bit. I'm sharing with people inside my life like it's my own reality TV show. So then they get to know who I am and how they can get benefit from me and how we can collaborate. And then there's commonalities too, right? So different things you probably saw about me, which I'm not thinking of right now, you connected with because I stated it, you saw it, you're like, oh, I can connect with that guy on a deeper level, which resulted in a connection.
Totally. And, you're having an event this year in Nashville.
Yeah,
big
it's
event.
crazy, yeah.
I'm having an event.
We got something coming.
And it's one of those things, too, where, some of the best people I've met in my life do something similar, but drastically different.
Yes.
Right? And, especially in my real estate career, using that as an example, a lot of realtors, they don't collaborate with other realtors.
Yeah.
It's a me versus you and there's another realtor over there. So, I
never understood that.
I never got it either.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, right? Because
it's a big world.
we collaborate. We were at 1230 Club. We had a great conversation. What you're doing, what I'm doing, how we're doing it, right? I'm asking you, man, hey, you've been doing this longer. How am I doing, right? Give me some feedback.
Yeah.
And it's just powerful, man. Proximity, people, connections.
And collaboration. I think people that are worrying about, let's say, competition or things, they're thinking small-minded. It's a huge world. It's a huge country. It's people buy from people. And we all have our own communities. And I believe in how can we supplement each other and make each other better? Because we are all, in my opinion, we're all together in this, whatever you call this thing called life or business or anything. How can we supplement each other? How can we make each other better? And I'm a person that wants to be around people that are positive minded. They want to go towards something bigger themselves, and they're not looking to take you down. Yeah. So that's my whole core and being.
And if you're not growing, to me, you're dying.
Exactly.
You're either going this way or this way.
It's 100%.
Right? And what you said is so powerful. You just said it's people and it's people you buy from someone, not something. And that's kind of leading me into personal branding, which was something I definitely wanted to chat about today, right? Because it's the power of that person. You let them into your life. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the brand that they want, because they can get a similar product from other brands. It's that experience, it's that person, it's who they want to connect with. So tell us a little bit about your journey, man.
Yeah. So by the way, what you said about the being connected people and just relationships and everything. What do we want as humans? So for one, we want food, we want a shelter, we want love, but we want relationships. We want to feel like we're a part of something. And that's the power of like doing anything. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves and connect with people. So people think about that. That's really what we want. They think money is a thing. Well, money helps get different things. So going to my journey, I'll go back in time. So I'm from Northeast Iowa, small town in Garnerville, Iowa, 700 people, nobody's ever heard of, 700 person town that had like a gas station and a cafe. And so I grew up in the ice business, believe it or not. So I'll repeat that again, the ice business. My dad would deliver to convenience stores, bars, restaurants, and ever since I was a kid, literally at 5 years old, I'd be dragging a bag of ice to the back of the truck, putting it into different stores. And I got to see what it was like to, for one, witness my father build a business, work with people, customers, mom and pop stores, and like customer relations, but also sell, in this case, sell ice. And so that was really ingrained in me. People are like, oh, where'd you learn entrepreneurship? It was all I knew.
Yep.
And so that led to down the road, I'm young, I go into college, and then I read this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which completely changed how I thought and how I looked at life. And then I invented this product called Arctic Stick to cool and flavor drinks.
Say that book again. Say that one more time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's the Bible to my life.
Love it.
I think everybody should read it. And it's not just about rich and money. It's about having a enriched full life and being the best at who you are and being around the right people.
Fulfillment.
And the book really taught me that. So if you read the book, there's stories of Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford in there. And it shares how they became super wealthy, but also successful and pioneered really everything we have, from the Ford mobile, like the Ford truck, to looking at the steel industry, to the light bulb. And these people, they weren't like the smartest people. Like one, I think Thomas Edison, 8th grade degree, not even.
Crazy.
And these people had a burning desire to achieve something. And when I read that book at the time, I was getting a 1.68 GPA in college, about to drop out, didn't know what I want to do. But it allowed me to realize that if I used my mind effectively and really surrounded myself with the right people and had a plan in place, I would become successful in whatever I did. And so in the ice business, I wanted to make more money. I invented a product to cool and flavor bottled beverages and eventually took it to market. But that wasn't like, I share this story because it does lead into video production and raising money and everything I do today, is that invention I spent over $100,000 of my own money. Never made over $10,000. Had a patent, trademark everything, launch a product. But what happened is, while pursuing that endeavor, I was pitching in front of groups and I was learning to raise money, and I more specifically crowdfunding. And so I started to become a crowdfunding expert. This is like Kickstarter and go back in the day.
Yep.
But what I found out is we had raised, like one of the big campaigns we did early on in my career is John Lee Dumas. We had the Freedom Journal. We did $453,000 in 33 days. And then we actually ended up crowdfunding the movie on the book Think and Grow Rich, called Think and Grow Rich: The Legacy. And I started raising money. But what was the key component to raising the money? It was the video that we created that told a powerful story, shared what we were doing, why people should get involved, and how they could get involved, in this case money, and that helped raise the money. So creating those videos for crowdfunding made me realize, okay, I want to focus more time on creating video content. And so where my first opportunity came to get into like doing TV shows and stuff is a guy came to me, Greg Roulette out of Florida. He said, hey, I have a pilot run of a TV show. If you help me raise the money for it, I'll make you my co-host.
There you go.
I said, let's do it. And then the rest was history. That was my first opportunity, and then I just kind of kept going with that.
Love it. Love it. So you started something, was committed to it. Through that journey, you may have never got with that specific thing to where you wanted to, but it opened up doors, created skills and knowledge.
You said it just right.
And then you went and applied that knowledge. I love it. I love it.
If you look at it, you're the kind of guy that thinks this way too. There is no losing. Like, no matter what you do in life, any investment I ever make, I look at worst case scenario, is it worth it? In my opinion, yes. Because if you make an investment and let's say you lose all your money, but you're gaining knowledge. You're gaining an experience that helps you approach something else and down the line. Now, in that invention Arctic Stick, yes, some people could say, oh, that was a temporary defeat failure. But if I did not pursue that, I wouldn't understand how to communicate a message. I wouldn't understand pitching. I wouldn't understand crowdfunding. I would have never gotten video production. And that led me to what I do today. So everything is happening for you and not against you. And when you have that mindset, especially like when things are all going wrong, I mean, I've almost went through bankruptcy. I've experienced it all. It actually made me stronger. And so having that mindset, it happened for me, not against me.
Now, when you say it made you stronger, is there core values that you learned throughout that? And then my second question is did you have to figure out who you were in those valleys opposed to those peaks?
Yeah, I think you're finding that out in the valleys, peaks, everything else. I mean, I look at, we're always changing. I'm 30, I'm thinking now, 33.
Good age, by the way.
Yeah, when I was because we're same age, right?
Same age,
Same age, yeah.
Funny how that works.
When I was 21, I remember just grinding, and I still do, but I just work in different ways. At 21, I was a different person. At 25, I was a different person. At 29, I was almost bankrupt. Had to start all over. I had success. I had different awards, everything else, but I had to start over. Now at 33, I'm in a whole nother like playing field, but I feel like I'm just getting started. And when I'm 37, success to me will probably look different. I have no kids. I'm married, got a beautiful wife, and I'm on this mission right now of building an empire, growing, helping. But time changes everything. Experiences changes everything. So I always tell people to ask themselves, what does success mean to you right now in your moment, in your life, in your personal relationships, in your finances, in your business endeavors, in your creative projects, or you as a person? Because I don't think enough people ask themselves what success means to them, because I never really did. And then I started doing it after doing a whole show on the whole thing. And then I realized like it's always changing. And the problem with social media, I love social media. I'm on it every day. I love the fact you can empower people, you can inspire people. But the thing is, people see everything online and they think, this is what I need to be. I need to make this amount of money. I need to have this thing. I need to do this. You do what you want to do.
Yep.
You don't have, not everybody has to be like me or you or anybody else. You do what's you and just be the best at it and enjoy your life. Some people want to go and have 5 kids and settle in a nice house and just live a ordinary life where they don't need to go in the spotlight. There's nothing wrong with that.
Of course.
And then there's somebody like me that I just want to conquer the world. I want to keep going but that's my own version of success. So knowing what your version of success is.
And I think for me, you talk about different versions of success in different ages. If you ask someone who I met a year ago, and I just actually had a conversation yesterday with a good friend, and he reminded me of a conversation a year ago. And he's like, man, you're completely different.
Those are the best, aren't they?
You're completely different. Like, what's up? What have you been doing? And I'm like, I've just been looking inward. Mm-hmm. That's really all I've been doing is trying to get better internally and trying to grow and pushing myself to do uncomfortable things, but through that learning more and more about me, right? And that's why I was asking about those peaks and valleys, because I find when I'm down in the valleys is when I'm actually maturing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's those tough moments, bankruptcy, am I doing the right thing, imposter syndrome, something where you just getting crushed day after day, thing after thing you never even thought was possible to happen to you or your business, right? Mm-hmm. So I found in my personal situation, in my personal life, that those valleys really allowed me to dig into who I was, have more clarity, and then understand where I wanted to go.
Wake up calls. It's when you're pushed against a wall, you're forced to figure things out in different ways. And unless you have those valleys, I feel like you'll never really reach your full potential.
Totally.
And I mean, I look at anything that's ever happened for me, but in that moment, it may have sucked, but it actually gave you knowledge and resources and experiences that allowed you to go to another level.
Totally. And I love what you said about social media and comparing and, different versions of success, because for me, I fell victim to that, right?
Yeah.
I surrounded myself with a certain group. I wanted to go and do what they were doing and learning from them and growing at a rapid rate. And then I spent more time with one of these folks, and I'm like, man, that's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make 20 million right now in my life. That may change, but that's not the goal, right? Got the little girl at home, new
Congrats,
marriage.
by the way. You got a lot going on.
I got a lot going on,
Yeah.
but at least I'm understanding, what to prioritize and what those goals are. And I think to your point, with social media and comparing to other people, you've got to stay in your lane, which is the most, like, you hear that throughout your whole life, but it just actually meant something to me recently because I got lost in those comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to run your own race at your own pace.
I
know that sounds cheesy as hell, but like the reality of it is like I can't compare because I don't want the same thing down to the T, right? We may have a revenue goal, we may have a marriage goal, it may align in the same time period, but there's so much uniqueness and intricacies. I can't say that word.
Is that the word? I'm trying to think. I actually said a word 3 times today, and I didn't even know what it meant. I got a D in English, by the way. I did get a D in English. That's no joke.
But you got 2 Emmys, so hey, what your success is matters to you.
Yeah. But no, you think about that though. Like, it's all right to go look at other people out there and see what they've done and see how can I do it my own way. But just don't let it be a compare game like, oh, they've done this, I haven't done that. Because I guarantee you, they also are dealing with things that you don't even know that you're not dealing with. So we all have our own problems, and for every level, there's another devil.
Yep.
And I've learned that, especially recently, because I've been going to another level, and I've realized, wow, there's new problems and experiences I've never experienced before. But I know I'm growing. Totally. I'm getting more out of my comfort zone.
Totally. I love that. Well, let's dive into your event, if you don't mind chatting about it. And Rise and Record in Nashville, October 17th?
October 17th through the 19th here in Nashville, Rise and Record. And you'll like this because I'll share the whole meaning behind Rise and Record. It started with the TV show. So Rise and Record is rising up, sharing your story, specifically through video or film. And it doesn't even have to be that. It could be just any way of sharing your story. Now, why is storytelling important? So I'm going to go back in time. So we're 2023, is that right? Is it? I'm trying to think. Man, am I getting?
But 33, bro. We start forgetting things.
I mean, hey, 2017. I didn't have enough coffee today. 2017, my wife and I were sitting on a beach. We were not quite engaged yet. And it was I had done my first TV show. And I wasn't going to do another season. And we're sitting on the beach in Puerto Rico, and we're talking, what are we going to do next in our own journey in life? And I said, why don't we live in different cities around the country? At that time, I said live in 12 cities in 12 months. And I'd always thought about it, but I never really, I'm like, okay, if I don't do it now, at that time I was 27, I think, I won't ever do it. And she's like, okay, let's do that. And I said, why don't we film a TV series around it? And you'll be my co-host. Which was a little more like pulling strings because my wife did not want to be in front of the camera or anything. I did convince her to do it. But after we left that beach, how many times do you think people have an idea, they're drinking, they say they're going to do something, they never do it? Well, we end up implementing it, went home, made the plan. I went to my mentor, said, will you be EPs of this, help produce? Well, I went to one of my past directors, will you help direct this? And then we started planning the cities. And then in October of that year, we did a mini 35-day road trip. We went to different cities. I spoke to groups, shared our vision. People thought we were crazy. And then by December 27th that year, we started and went on our first city. And the show was called Success in Your City. The whole thing was around asking the question, what is success? And learning from people in different cities. So the first city, we learned from Shea Hillenbrand, 2-time All-Star baseball player that lost everything, literally suicidal, and then came back.
And what was that first city?
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Arizona, cool.
So Arizona, then we went to Texas, and then we went to Boston. We went to all these different cities, and we learned different versions of success. And I will tell you, we were challenged throughout the process because we got to our second city, and keep in mind, I'm funding the production of the show. We got some sponsors, but I'm funding most of it with my own money. But I also have a business to run. I was buying out a business partner at the time. I had just got done with a very event that went wrong. Lost a lot of money, and I was financially strapped. So much so, we're in a hotel room in Austin, Texas, in Pflugerville to be exact, Country Inn and Suites. My wife will never go there again. And she's depressed because we had no money, and she deals with depression sometimes, and that was like a low point. I feel like a loser because I can't figure out how to make money. She wants to go home. I'm like challenging myself. I don't give up on anything, but I'm forcing the person I love to really feel uncomfortable. And it's where I really started finding faith. And for those of you listening that ever experience a huge setback, you know, right before like you have your big win, you feel a moment of peace. And I remember sitting in the room, and that night I took Samantha to dinner. It was Valentine's Day. And I said, screw it. I got $75 left on my credit card. I'm taking her to dinner. We had Mexican, came back, and I felt at peace. The next day, 6 months prior, I had did a deal. It was a consulting for equity deal. And I made more money in that deal than I made in the whole previous year. I went from literally like broke, nothing, to having money again. And so I was back at it. So we did Austin, Texas. We filmed. We went to Boston, Massachusetts. We learned from a guy that was homeless and then created an orchestra. We went to all these different cities. And by the way, this is leading up to Rise and Record, how it even came about. We did this show. In 12 months, this is what happened. We filmed a TV series. We sold our house. We sold everything we owned. I sold 2 businesses. I almost went bankrupt. And we won some Emmy Awards. All in 12 months. And we got married. This all happened. And we really started questioning, what does success mean? Like, what is success mean to you and everything else? So we took what we created with the show, and we created a whole book called The Road to Success, How to Achieve Success in Business, Life, and Love. And then eventually we released that show, Success in Your City. Amazon Prime, we first launched, and then now we're actually relaunching on a company I have ownership in, Bespoke TV, which is going to go through DirecTV.
Nice.
But this all happened. And what did we learn? The power of sharing your story. We were asking people questions, and 2 things happened. For one, when they communicated their story on camera, it was very therapeutic for them, and it was like life-changing for them. But also, when they publicly shared it, it helped them attract more people that could relate with them, but it helped their business. So Rise and Record is really coming from a TV show we created 5 years ago that was all about success and what's your story. And then one more step, and this is really why I do what I do. We ended up creating a spinoff called Red Flags documentary. It's all my wife's story. My wife at 13 got addicted to meth. For a year of her life, she was in this roller coaster at 13. Then somehow had they call it, basically you scare yourself to death and then you quit, which most people don't ever do. Rolled into an 8-year abusive relationship. One day, packed her bags and left and never looked back, and literally threw everything in her car and drove away. And so we created a documentary on her story called Red Flags. Red flags are the red flags in your life, and that won a Emmy as well. And that's really why I do what I do. That's why we do Rise and Record. My wife is a partner with it. It's about creating a platform for people to share their story with the world, specifically through video. And it just helps so many people. I think we all have a story to share, and I think it's your duty to share it with the world to not only help yourself, but help other people. So that's what Rise and Record came from, and from a crazy idea of traveling the country and creating a TV show.
Love it. Love it. Man,
that was a long-winded.
That was,
it's been a while since I told that whole journey.
No, I love it. I love it. And I didn't know that journey for you, which is even better and more awesome that we're here sharing this.
Yes.
And that story.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of Rise and Record.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So funny. It all comes full circle. I love it. I love it. So throwing events, how long you been doing Rise and Record?
So Rise and Record, this will be 3rd year. I've been doing events for about a decade now. Different events, brands. I've sold event brands, but like Rise and Record, this is our 3rd year. Last year we did in Nashville, doing in Nashville again this year. And again, it's about sharing your story through video. It's just like a 3-day event to bring people together and really collaborate, find ways to help each other. But more importantly, how do you share your story? How do you use video to do it? Because we've done TV shows, we've done campaigns and everything. And, yeah, I like to have fun in anything I do.
Of course.
It's not just business, even though like I'm very business minded. We have rooftop parties. We have music. Last year we had Brian Kelly of Florida Georgia Line come in and perform.
Yep.
Like creating experiences for people that they never forget, because memories are things that last forever.
I love it. I love it. Super cool. Super cool. So let's flip over and dive into maybe the event that didn't go so well.
Do
you want to share?
I will share it all.
How that went and kind of the ups and downs and for someone like me who throws my events,
I'll share
what
two.
I should watch out for?
No, I'll share 2 events because I think it's important to see at the beginning. In 2015, I started podcasting, called at that time the University of Young Entrepreneurs. Now called, it was Live to Grind, and now I do like the Brennan T. Adams Audio Experience. And the reason I did the podcast show is because I wanted to have conversations like this.
Of course.
And I wanted to build valuable like connections, relationships, but I wanted to share these people's knowledge with other people.
Love it.
And so I did that. I got 6 months into podcasting. I'm like, there's a need, and this is back when I lived in Des Moines, Iowa. There's a need to create a event, specifically I was a young entrepreneur back then, in Iowa for other entrepreneurs. And I always, like I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I went to all the past podcast guests I had on my show. I said, hey, would you want to do this with me? We'll co-create something. They said yes. We ended up creating something called Young Entrepreneur Convention. And so this is 2015. We're planning in August, September. And then the first event was April of that next year, 2016. And so going through the process of that event, I remember booking big names and everything, speakers, and I somehow bootstrapped that event. We had over 500 people there, first ever event. But I had Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, the original shark of Shark Tank, that my mentor had done a deal with, and I wanted to get him to speak. And back then, Kevin didn't know who I was or anything. And I remember negotiating the deal and committing to paying him to speak, which is a lot of money at that time. It was a couple payments I had to pay. I was willing to sell my pickup truck to pay his fee. Paid the first one, I didn't have the money for the next one. And literally went all in. The point here is like, you have to go all in life. Either you're all in or you're not. And God will just figure it out to provide a path for you. And for me, what I did is I got a sponsor to pay for it, did my first event. Well, that relationship now, Kevin and his son and I have a very large portfolio of companies we have investment in. Kevin became a big business partner of mine. And that event was a catalyst to establish a relationship that not only made me a lot of money, but gained more friendships and relationships. So that event did work out, but going into it, I'm like, how am I going to do this?
Yep.
So that's why events are so powerful. Now I want to go to one that didn't work out so well. Is Live to Grind was the event. Downtown LA, 2017, right before doing our trip around the country. It was during the fires. So if anybody knows, like there was fires going on, which by the way, they were nowhere near downtown LA. But everybody was like, there's fires going on. We can't make it. Most of the people attending didn't come to the event. We're at the Westin Bonaventure, downtown LA. West, by the way, if you're a Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, True Lies, there's a scene where I think a horse goes out of the elevator. It was filmed on the rooftop of Westin Bonaventure. And so we booked this extravagant hotel and everything. Like a fourth of the audience came to the event.
Wow.
I had well over $100,000 into this event, more at the time. And as people put on events, like I was relying on selling packages and training at the event. We sold hardly anything. So we had debt going into the event. We had debt going out of the event. And it like catastrophe happened. Well, consider that catastrophe.
Yep.
And then a month later, 2 months later, a business partner I had said, hey, like I went out, but also you owe me for the equity that I have in this business. I'm like, we don't have any money. I said, we just lost all this. What do you feel like I owe you money? And so long story short, that went south, and that experience was horrible. My wife still to this day would be like, remember that time we did that? Because I would do events and I would spend money and I didn't know how I was going to figure it out, but I believed in bringing people together so much.
Let's go,
that
dude.
I did it.
Come on,
I did
let's
it
go.
because
That's
I
it.
sacrificed
That's
everything
it.
I had. But I will say, I don't regret it because that made me stronger.
Of course.
And it's a story to share here today. Now my events are, I mean, we spend a lot of money on our events and we have people together and it's so much fun. But I had to have those experiences happen before I could get to where I'm at now.
Well, I mean, you know, if no one listens to this and no one sees it online, you just inspired me.
Thank you.
Because you're talking to
That's
the
worth
guy
it.
who's going through that right now, right? Like,
You know what it is.
Let's be real. You
Yeah.
know, I'm in it,
Yeah.
right? The credit cards are going, baby.
Yeah, you're
you know?
spending credit cards, you put
That
the money
investment
in,
property,
you're
may
waiting
need
for
to
a ticket
sell.
to cover it, then you're getting to the event. I mean, I remember one
We
event,
sold 2 tickets.
6 figures deep going into it. I'm like, we got to figure this out.
We sold 2 tickets last night, and I was able to pay 2 employees.
Yeah, hey, that boy. Yeah, you got
So,
it happen.
That's it. That's life, you know? And I think to your point, at the end of the day, and I think we talked about it when we were at 1230 Club.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I already won.
Yep.
I can't lose.
Yeah,
I can't, lose. You know, it brought me close to you, to meet you. That's a massive win. You know, I've learned from you in just the short period of time we've engaged.
Yeah.
You know, one of the books that changed my life, you know, I was on a Zoom yesterday with the person who wrote it because I was entertaining the opportunity for them to come to speak at my event. So there was an opportunity to get on a Zoom for 45 minutes.
Which book can you say?
The Perfect Week Formula by Craig Ballantyne.
Oh my God, he's great. I haven't met him yet, but obviously well-known guy.
Yeah, so it's just super cool, right? Because I've already won, man. I had a 45-minute conversation. I learned about him. He learned about me. He's going to get back to me. We're going to figure some things out. Maybe he speaks at the event. Maybe he doesn't, right?
Either way, that's cool.
At the end of the day, dude, I talked to someone that I never thought I'd ever even engage in a conversation. You got the experience.
And that's the powerful thing about events is you get to connect with high-level people, and then you find ways to partner with them.
Yes.
And that's what I do. Like, the people I bring into my events, they're either my friends I've done business with over the years, or like the Brian Kelly example, Florida Georgia Line. I really loved his vibe and who he was, and he had just getting done, kind of him and I think Tyler, they were going different directions with their music. But he chose the path to go in his own direction to become the beach cowboy. And I really believed in him and his wife and what they were doing, and my wife and I did. And I said, hey, this is somebody I want to invest in to create an experience for people at my event. But it's somebody I just want to be friends with.
Totally.
And so that's one thing I've done with my events is I find people that I want to build a connection with. Hey, let's figure a way to get them on my stage, show them what we're all about, and then let's become friends. Let's goes back to relationships. Let's create a lifelong relationship.
That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, when in the beginning when you take on something like this, and I'm sure you may have felt this early on, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of fear, right? And you can use that fear or you can let it cripple you. Mm-hmm. But even if you use it, there's still that little nugget of something in the back of your head that I've never done this before, right? And I don't know what the forward path is. And, you know, I think in those situations, you really just kind of got to power through.
I think this is something that people need to hear. And what you're talking on is, I always tell people, like, ask yourself, if you are going to die today and you look back on your life, would you be able to say you did everything you wanted to, or would you have regrets?
Man, I literally had 3 conversations with 3 different people this week about that.
It's a tough conversation because the other thing, next step, think of yourself, you're 85, 90 years old, you're sitting on your deathbed, you look back on your life, and let's do the example for me and my wife traveling the country doing the TV show. Me looking back on my deathbed and looking on my life and saying, oh, what if we would have took that trip around the country and created that show?
I never want to say what if.
Is why I do what I do, and let alone, so I did the trip, did the show, and it did almost force me. I mean, soon after we got married, did the show, and we had Emmys and everything, and we're this success, right? Well, people don't know, I had to, well, people do, but not everybody, I had to sell everything I own. I lost everything. My car got repossessed. The bank took my land. I had 20 debt collectors call me a day. I had notes under the door for eviction notice. I didn't have enough money to even get food for my wife. My father stopped talking to me because when I had to bankrupt a business, his name was on the card. I was so broke and so broken down. Every day when I woke up, I asked myself, what am I going to do? And I just kept going, picking up, go to the gym, pick up the phone, send the email, and wondered, what am I going to do? My marriage was on the rocks. I literally lost everything. And it was the hardest thing in my life. But I will tell you, it was worth everything. I did. There's no regrets. And it allowed me to become even more successful. And it's a story to share today because how many people are dealing with troubles, obstacles right now? I'm here to tell you I lived through it. Now I'm very successful in my own way. I've done very well for myself, and it's because I just kept going. And so my whole thing is never give up.
That's it, man.
Never give up.
The only way out is through.
It's through.
That's
I like
it.
that. That's yours.
it.
Yeah.
You just got to keep pushing.
Yep.
And when it's the darkest before dawn, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, when you're at that moment and you're just like, I want to give up, and this is stupid, and why am I doing this? And I've wasted all this time and this money and this energy. And then that breakthrough happens.
Yep.
That level of clarity, that a big win that you were just waiting on.
That's why you have to have faith and believe, because, again, this is happening for me.
Yep.
When you have the thought of it's happening for me, not against me, it will change your mind and how you think about anything. Napoleon Hill talked about how you can either think negative or you can think positive. You can't do both. You think negative, it won't help because your negative mindset will, how you just function.
We are way too alike, bro.
Yeah. But when you think positive,
literally,
think about it.
You can't have a negative and a positive thought at the same time.
But if you think positive,
crazy.
You can go forward. And so even when I was in that low moment of bankruptcy, what do I do to think positive? I went to the gym. It made me feel more motivated. I surrounded myself with the right people. I called my mentors. I read the books. I listened to the books. I went back to the gym. I put myself in an atmosphere that kept me in a positive state, even though it wasn't a positive state. I put my phone in Do Not Disturb for people that weren't in contact, so the debt collectors couldn't call me anymore. I couldn't handle the calls anymore. I put a plan in place and put myself in a positive mindset that slowly allowed me to dig my way out. And then before I knew, I looked back and I'm like, wow, I got through it.
Totally.
And I learned from it.
How do you, on the days, talk about the days that was the toughest? Because what you said is we can receive it, we can hear it, but I really want to understand it. Like, because I have these days, and I think everybody does, right? And
I still have them.
And we always
in different ways.
It will always happen, no matter what, till we die, right?
Yeah.
Especially if we're growing.
Yeah.
But talk to me about the mindset. Talk to me about, I know, you know, you're going to go to the gym. You don't feel like going to the gym.
Yeah.
That one person that called you that got through may not have been a debt collector, but made you feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get through that, man? How'd you get up in the morning, go to the gym, read the books?
It's self, and even it's hard. I would go in front of the mirror and say, my name is Brandon T. Adams. I am the most successful entrepreneur of my time. I will not accept defeat. I will not accept failure. Whatever my mind conceives and believes, mine achieves. I will impact 1 billion lives in a positive way by December 31st, 2029. I will do this through inspiration, motivation, education, through the power of speaking, podcasting, online events, and my TV show. Whew.
Man,
every day I would look in the mirror.
Goosebumps.
Seriously,
right there.
I look in the mirror, and I would tell myself. And sometimes when my wife wasn't around, I'd scream, and I would say,
scream like at the top of your lungs.
I would scream and say, "Listen here, mofo." I would cuss. I would say, "You're gonna figure this out. You're better than this." I would literally yell at myself and pump myself up, and just say, "I'm gonna figure this out. There's no other way." And you think of low moments. When you hit so rock bottom, you say, I'm never going to feel this again. I'll never forget. I had to take a bus ride to back where my parents were. And I was sitting in my house. My parents are home. And my wife calls me. And she said, Brandon, I can't find our vehicle. And by the way, there's a story behind this because I own a Tahoe now. At that time, I had a Tahoe. Same Tahoe, black Tahoe. So I can't find the vehicle. It's winter. It's in Minnesota. It's not starting. It's not starting. Well, I was like 3 months behind. And they repossessed it. But my wife is here. She's 20 minutes from our home in the wintertime. She's at work. Embarrassing. Didn't want anybody to know. I'm 4 hours away and I can't do anything. And I just realized that I can't take care of her. The car's repossessed. And I went downstairs, started bawling and screaming. And this, by the way, this is only 3.5 years ago. And I'm like, this is never going to happen to me again. And 2 days later, I had to have a friend say, hey, can you take me, get their stuff on my vehicle? I said, I'm just losing everything. And I'll never forget this. I went and I got the stuff out of the vehicle and it was gone. I mean, it was just a vehicle, but it's like, it was everything I had left.
Everything you had left, brother.
And
everything.
I'll never forget. I'm like, I'm not going to deal with this again. And 2 years later, when I bought a brand new Tahoe, and I'm like, it's not about the vehicle, it's about I got it back. And then I built out a multi-million-dollar portfolio. I was making more money than I ever made. And I went from literally facing bankruptcy to wealth again. And those are the moments you don't forget about, because they actually make you a better person.
Of course.
And for anybody that is going through that right now, just know it's okay. Like, call somebody up, DM me. I'll talk to you, because it is a lonely place, but I'll tell you, it's worth keep going, because if you do keep pushing forward, you're going to have a grand story to share one day.
Totally.
And it's going to make you a stronger person.
Totally. Love it, man. Love it. I don't know what to say after that, man. You got me choked up over here. I'm like, shit, I'm holding back tears.
I'm sharing new stories here. It's been a while.
But I mean, no, you're 100% right. And at the end of the day, you know, I appreciate you sharing that and the vulnerability, you know, especially someone at your level doing great things, making those, you know, relationships and partnerships, and you've got your hands in a lot of stuff. It's always nice for someone to open up and share the truth and show the vulnerability, you know, something that I had trouble with my whole life until recently. But it's like, man, what you just said is going to help, I guarantee you, and almost everybody in some way listening to this
More
today.
people need to do it, because when we share our authentic self in our story, we live in a world where everybody's got to figure it out. Everybody's doing well. That's bull. Everybody's got something. I'm friends with some very wealthy and successful people. We all got something. And when you're opening up about what's actually going on in your life or what's happened, you will help so many more people.
Totally.
And they will, if you want to talk business standpoint, they will respect you so much more, and they're going to be a lot more likely to work with you. I remember I work with a lot of multimillionaires, CEOs of companies. I'll never forget one of them, became a great friend, relationship for many years, a client. He said the thing that connected is he almost went bankrupt too. Him and I both did the same thing. We didn't go bankrupt. We almost did. We probably should have, but he said, I connect with you so much because we had been through the same thing. And then we end up working together. But it's that commonality, that connection, because we're all dealing with something.
Totally.
You're back to your story. Rise up, share your story, rise and record.
That's it. That's it. Man, you just got my brain going in so many different ways. I'm like, because we are all going to be in those positions at one side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
You can be bankrupt, you can be almost bankrupt.
Yeah.
You can have to sell some property or your house and have to downgrade, or just go down to one car, no cars, right? And everybody has a different situation. But I appreciate you sharing that, because, you know, for me personally, I struggle in those moments, and I get very emotional, and, you know, I tend to not go to the gym when I know that it's good for me.
Me too.
You know? Yeah. And the way you recited what you just said, it sounds like you still say that to yourself every morning.
Yes, you got to build into your subconscious.
So even when you're on the rise and the growth, and you're feeling good, and you're doing a bunch of stuff, and money's flowing, you're still saying the same thing you said when you were down in the dirt.
Yep. When I'm running, sometimes the people, if they don't see me, like I'm running, I'm like, you're the baddest motherfucker there is.
Let's
go. I'm like, you're a success, dude. You're gonna crush this day. Like, I'm like saying it, and it's probably loud because I got my headphones in, and I'm just running down the street.
We're gonna get paparazzi one day catching you from the side.
I'm literally like pumping myself up, because we have to. Somebody could think.
So powerful. Right? So powerful.
But this has been fun. This is good. It's always good to have a real conversation with somebody that can understand and just be willing to go there.
Totally. So what else you working on, man? What else you got going? You're talking about you consult for equity.
Yeah.
Can you just chat a little bit about how'd you get into that? Like where did that come from?
That's what really saved me. I got into selling my knowledge, but that event, Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, he had done infomercials for years. He was really doing consulting for equity way before anybody even called it that, when he was doing product launches. And when I did my first deal with Kevin, it was actually while I was doing the TV show. That's a deal that came through that made me more money than I ever made before. And that was called consulting for equity. When you provide your knowledge, your resources, your connections, and bring it together to add value to a company, there's opportunities for you to consult and get paid for your time, but also get equity in the company or stock. And so once I started doing with him, I understood how to do it at the highest level. And now I've built up a very extensive worth in companies through using my knowledge, my abilities, my brand, and now my ability with platforms and events to provide value to the right companies, because they all need to understand how to communicate their message. Yeah. My crowdfunding came into play, raising money. I know how to do these things. And so what we would do is together we do it, and I do it as well for myself, is where we go into a company, they need help, they need to grow, say, hey, here's what it looks like. You pay me a retainer for my time. I'm going to get a piece of the company, and I'm going to have milestones based on growth. And then we're going to help grow this together. And I'm like a partner, but I'm really a fractional, like C-suite executive / consultant.
Nice.
And so that's like my big focus. You were just talking about before, I just announced I'm doing like workshops around it. I've never really taught people about it because I've just always done it.
Yep.
There's some people that educate and never done it. Like I've been doing it so long. I'm like, I want to start sharing this with people because I don't think they understand how to structure these kind of deals, because most people never think, like somebody can come in, they're going to get equity and they're going to help do this. Like they would never even think about that.
I owned a consulting company in 2020.
Yeah.
Because real estate wasn't real. You couldn't really do much in real estate. My organic frozen beverage company, I was selling it, didn't really know what to do. So I started a consulting company, and we would do that. But that was the first time I was ever exposed to it, because when you're consulting and you're charging someone $10,000-$20,000 a month, and it's a company that isn't at a large revenue stream yet, they wanted to give equity because they didn't have the $20,000 to pay.
Yep.
Right. So it's
part cash, part equity.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I never really labeled what we were doing. I just thought it was a way to get paid. And we actually shied away from all those deals because we needed the money, because we needed it to live.
But here's one thing.
Because that equity may come later. And I think that's that scarcity mindset for us back in 2020 with me and my partner, was like, we need the money now, dude. Like, we can't wait till this company blows up in 3 years.
Well, some might never blow up, and
that's the other piece.
And that's why you got to understand which one do I focus my time, money, and energy into. Because
so will that be something you'd go over in the workshop coming up? Like how to identify and what indicators to look for and how to get them to that next stage? I go over
how to identify opportunities, but how you structure it. So there's different deals. I'm going to throw off a bunch of ideas here. I geek on this. Like instead of for the deals I do, I get paid cash on a monthly. Sometimes it's less than others, but you can get options. Yep. So there's tax implications for this stuff. You get options. You can get equity. You get equity in company before it goes public. You get shares, and then you can get more shares on a monthly basis in a company. Ideally, the ones I'm going for are on the pathway to going public. Yep. And then some I know they're going to get acquired. And then how do you structure it? So like, here's one thing. So for me now, I've built a brand in knowledge and relationships. People believe in me. People will invest money with me. People want to get behind me. So when I put my name to something and I'm a part of it and I'm a partner in the company, people are like, oh, Brandon T. Adams is a partner in the company. I'm going to invest in that because I believe in Brandon and what his potential is, and he's helping steer the ship. Makes sense. That's the power of brand. By the way, you got to be careful. You got to make sure you're putting your name on the right things, because if it doesn't go well, and then somebody's like, oh, that's a reputation. Yep. I mean, I'll tell you a deal. This is a cool, epic deal. If you guys watch TV, you ever seen the show Wicked Tuna?
Yeah. I'm from Boston, dude.
Season 13, big show. Before I met Paul Hebert, captain of the show, this is about 14 months ago. It was me, Kevin Harrington, and Paul, and somebody else, and we met for lunch in Clearwater, Florida. And I didn't know who this guy was. Everybody wanted his autograph, pictures with him. But this show, Wicked Tuna, well-known show. They're going on season 13. Well, he said, there's so many product opportunities here for us to be able to sell products, to really like grow this. Like, we're captains on the show. We're all famous, but nobody's really came in and sold products or merchandise or anything. Well, Pilgrim has the rights to the show. They own it. Well, Net Geo, and you have Disney now. Yep. And so we said, why don't we get the licensing to sell products for this show as seen on Wicked Tuna? Because everybody knows about the show. It's in 176 countries. And so it took a year of negotiating, going back and forth. We now own the worldwide wide rights to licensing for As Seen on TV for the Wicked Tuna show. And by the way, we're projected to do over $200 million in revenue in the next 18 months. And we have Walmart and other companies that say, hey, we will buy this. We'll just, because it's a known show. Everybody's going to buy it. We'll have Wicked Tuna fish sticks. We'll have Wicked Tuna clam chowder. We'll have the fish, the fishing poles, all of it. And so that's an example of a partnership, something that was created, and that really became more of a new entity and a vision, and then a licensing to now we bring the dream team together. We have rights in this entity that now is going to sell hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product. And so just an example of like something that can happen with, that's more of a license deal, not consulting for equity.
But it's creativeness based on you being the consultant.
But never giving up too.
Exactly. Because a year of negotiation.
And so that goes back to, that's a unique way to structure a deal. If you understand how to structure deals that are a win-win for all parties and you bring the right people together, you can make a lot of money. It's no different than what Henry Ford or Andrew Carnegie, all these people did. They brought in experts in different industries. They had a vision and a dream and an idea, and they said, hey, let's figure this out. They coordinated towards a common goal, and then they all became wealthy from it.
Love it. Love it.
See, I told you to get into this stuff.
Fired up, man. I can see the passion,
I love
dude.
it. So yeah, that's what we're teaching in the workshop.
Love it. Love it. Cool. I've got one more question for you, but is there anything else you want to share with the audience?
I want to say thank you for having me on the show. Anybody listening, just send me a direct message at Brandon T. Adams. I'm everywhere. You can't miss me. And if you are going through something right now, just send me a message. Like, you'll get through it. Just keep going. It's life. It happens for us and not against us.
Love it. Love it. All right. So my last question.
Yes.
Brandon T. Adams. Tell me a little bit about the T.
So,
because every time I've heard you introduce yourself, there's always the T.
Yes. So 2015 was Brandon Adams. And fun fact, there's a famous poker player named Brandon Adams, and there's an actor in Children Under the Stairs and Sandlot, which I love Sandlot, by the way, and Brandon Adams. And it's so funny, by the way. I was at my bachelor party golfing, and a guy called me up and left me a voicemail. Brandon Adams, you were great in the movie Think and Grow Rich: The Legacy. He's right. And you were amazing in the movie Sandlot. And I'm like, what? And I look it up.
Like, is this guy drunk?
Yeah.
What's happening?
And I looked at the movie Sandlot, and he was I think he was the pitcher in the movie. He's older now, but it wasn't me. And I called him up like, dude, you got the wrong guy. But I changed my name to Brandon T. My middle name is Taylor.
Gotcha.
Okay. Taylor. But there's two reasons why. One, I knew I needed to stand out and be different than all the other Brandon Adams out there. I'm Brandon T. Adams. I needed to dominate that domain. I bought the domain. I have all the handles. I dominate for SEO reasons. It's actually proven when you say your full name, people see you as someone, and they're more likely to remember it. And so at first it was very uncomfortable and weird, and people made fun of me as saying Brandon T. Adams. But after doing it for 8 years now, it's so natural. Brandon T. Adams. And I correct people for like podcast notes and everything. But my mom asked me, she's like, are you going to change your name? I called you Brandon Taylor Adams. I'm like, Mom, it's just what I put online, Brandon T. Adams. Yeah.
But that's the reason why. At least it's the T for your middle name, you know.
But it's a total
if your middle
branding
name
thing.
was like Robert, it would be kind of like, what's the T? You know,
it is. I mean, even like when I work with people, I tell them, what do you want to be known as your name? But also remember, everything you say, they're going to search you online. They're going to find you. Do you want to go for a full name? Do you want the middle initial? How do you want to do it? Because it is something they remember and they're going to think about. You can't always change it up. So there became Brandon T. Adams.
That's it. Love it. Well, thanks for hanging today, man. It was super powerful. I'm fired up. I'm inspired. Can't wait to do it again.
Yes.
Be on the lookout for Brandon T. Adams, Jim Morris. We're going to do something in the future together. And make sure you hit up his event, my event.
Throw it.
Boom.